Hi, welcome to the Student Success Center Learning Skills and Strategies workshops. My name is Leah and I'm a peer success coach, and today we're going to be talking all about time management. So before we get too far into this workshop, the goals of this session today are to help you to identify your current time management challenges. We're going to give you some tips on how to plan our time effectively, as well as discuss some time management strategies on how to make the most out of our study time or productivity time in general. So before we get too far into it, I'll give you a little bit of a thought exercise. So we know that we have about 168 hours in a week. So I want you to think about how you spend typically those 168 hours. So think about the time that you spend sleeping, the time you spend studying or socializing, maybe other commitments or time sponges. Maybe take some time to think about time management that hasn't always been the best or most productive for you. So maybe, I know sometimes myself, I get pulled into distractions like my phone and spend way too much time scrolling on social media. And so all of those things are really important for us to reflect on as students when we want to work on our time management. So do you have time wasting patterns? What is your biggest time management struggle? And how do you typically spend your week? Is there any places where you feel like you could do better, etc.? So when we talk about time management, it really is a skill that we have to continually practice. It's something that sometimes takes a lot of trial and error, and something that is really important for us to grow and work on as students. The biggest thing we can say with time management is to be proactive and not reactive. So sometimes, and what we like to say is that this really should begin at the beginning of term. So at the beginning of your semester, your instructors and professors will post your course syllabus, typically within the first few days or first week of the course starting. And so in a syllabus, especially if it's your first time looking at one, what you'll notice is that typically you'll have all of your due dates for the entire semester. So you'll know in September when your final assessments and final exams or final tests and projects are all coming up in, for example, November and December. So when you take a look at your syllabus for your course and for all the courses that you're registered in, you can start to make a long-term semester plan. So you can look at each of your courses and identify when those major deadlines are. So for example, when's my midterms going to be? When are my final papers due? And we can place those into a calendar so that we can help to identify maybe our busy weeks. So for example, in a semester, typically you'll see a lot of things being due around your mid-semester break. So whether this is your fall break in the fall semester or winter break in the winter semester, typically before and after those breaks, you'll see lots of midterms being due, lots of papers. And so those are really big weeks that we want to identify early so that we can make sure that we're managing and planning to have all of those assessments being, having to be done at the same time. So once we have our semester plan built, we can start looking at a more short-term, week-to-week basis. So we like to say, yes, we want to plan our larger semester, but we also want to make sure that we're planning out each week so that we can achieve those longer-term semester goals. So when we're creating a weekly planner, for example, we can make sure that we're blocking off more specific times for classes, work, other commitments. Maybe you're a student athlete and have practice or games. And then as well, we want to make sure that we're keeping some time for dedicated study time. And so we can identify where that study time may fit in based on our productivity blocks. So for example, I probably won't try and squeeze in a lot of in-depth studying within, an hour between classes, but if I have a longer afternoon, maybe that is what I identify as a productive time for me to really get a lot of studying done. So as you can see here, we can be really specific with weekly planners, so we can plan things down to the hour and really block out specifically the time you have for class, the time you have for work, study, etc. So once we see our weekly planner, we can often identify what are the main things we have on our to-do list. So maybe you get into the habit of making your weekly planner on Sunday night so that you have everything planned out for the following week, and you can see maybe I have a test coming up, I have this assignment due, and make sure that you're building a to-do list for the week. From there, we can even break things down further and look at a daily planner. And a daily planner is really great to make sure we're getting those small things done that we need to get done in order to achieve the larger weekly goals, and then even larger, the semester goals. So within our daily planner, we can have our daily schedule, we can have any key events that may be popping up. So maybe you have an appointment or a meeting, or you have to attend your professor's office hours. So all of those things you can jot down maybe in the notes section or the event section, as well as the to-do list for the things that you want to get done. So maybe you have a discussion post you want to get done this day, or you want to spend 1 hour working on an assignment or 1 hour studying. So all of those things we can start building into our daily planner and make sure that we're getting those things done. So as you can see from all of these different resources, there's a lot of different ways that you can build your planners. So whether you're using these paper resources that we have at the Student Success Center, or using digital resources such as Google Calendar, Outlook Calendar, Notion, all of these different GoodNotes planners and stuff like that that you can use to find what works best for you. A lot of students like to use calendars such as Google Calendar or Outlook because you can get reminders sent to maybe your phone or your device, and all of those help to keep you on track and so that you're not surprised by an assignment that maybe you forgot was coming up. So once we've kind of planned out what we need to do and we have maybe some time reserved to get some studying done, how do we know what we should study in this time to make it the most productive and efficient that it can be? So one great tool that we can use to decide this is the Eisenhower Matrix. So maybe I have, 4 hours set aside to study, but I have a lot of different assignments that I could work on and a lot of different projects or tasks. And so how am I going to decide what to do? So the Eisenhower Matrix essentially works by categorizing your tasks into urgent/important quadrants, as well as non-urgent, non-important, etc. So for example, if I'm looking through my task list and I see that I have a test or an assignment due in the next few days, so it's something that's very urgent, as in a few days from now, and it's important as well. So it's worth something on my grade, it's something that I need to pass in. So I would delegate this to the do category of the Eisenhower Matrix, as in something that should be at the top of my to-do list. So it's very important, I should do it and do it now. Maybe then I'm looking at my weekly planner and I see I have something coming up next Monday. So I have a bit more time to do it, but it is still important for my grade. So maybe this is an assignment coming up next week or a discussion post next week. And so I'm going to make sure that I schedule time into my upcoming planner to see when I can do it. Sometimes we have smaller tasks, so things that are urgent and need to be done, but they're not important to us. And so what we can do here is delegate this task to someone else. So deciding who can do this for me. So maybe this is something smaller like, I need to drop something off for my friend. Maybe I can get someone else to do that for me. And so it's really great to, recognize your support systems around you, for example. And then sometimes as university students too, we may have tasks that unfortunately we just cannot prioritize right now. So they're not urgent and not very important to us. And so ultimately the best thing to do with these type of tasks would be to categorize them in the delete section and just eliminate those from our to-do list so we can focus on those more important priorities. Okay, and so another strategy. So maybe we've decided that we have to study for our test in our urgent category of the Eisenhower Matrix. And so we've planned out what we're going to do to get this studying done, but how are we going to maximize our study time and make it efficient? Sometimes it can be hard to sit down and study for, 2, 3, 4 hours without kind of losing track of time or losing productivity. And so we can use something like the Pomodoro technique to kind of really help to keep us on track and to make sure we're maximizing the time that we're using towards this task. So what we can do is start by taking about a 5-minute short break at the beginning, then doing about 25 minutes of uninterrupted study time. So during this 25 minutes, we're working on that task that we've set at hand and working as uninterruptedly as we can. Again, then we'll take a short 5-minute break after that to refresh, maybe go for a quick walk or grab a snack, and then we'll sit down and repeat that 25-minute cycle. And so as you can see, you keep repeating the short 5-minute break with the longer 25-minute study cycle until you get the things done that you set out to do. And so this technique is really great because you can reward yourself with a longer break once you've gotten through about, 3 to 4 25-minute sections, so about an hour of studying. So the Pomodoro technique also really helps us to stay focused. It helps us to get those short breaks in without becoming overwhelmed. And so it really helps to maximize that study time. And we have lots of other resources on other study cycles like this and a 1-hour study clock. If you're interested in learning more about, please come chat with us or watch the other workshops in this series. So with that, and keeping in mind maybe some of the time management weaknesses that we discussed at the beginning, let's reflect on all the things that we talked about today. So looking at the strategies that I've suggested, maybe you check in with your peer coach and see if these strategies are working for you or if you need more support. And ultimately, we want to remember that time management is a skill that we have to keep practicing. So no one is perfect at time management, but we can definitely keep improving it using these different techniques and using strategies that work for you. So whether it's a digital calendar or a physical calendar, using the Pomodoro technique or the Eisenhower matrix, all of these things are really helpful when we are working on our time management. And finally, I like to say that you should always know that it's okay to say no. So as university students, sometimes we really have to prioritize our studies and school, and so maybe that is saying no to those other commitments so that we can focus on the time management priorities that we've identified. So with that, if you'd like to come book with your peer coach to discuss all of these things, please do so at the Student Success Center. We are here to help you, and best of luck with all of your time management. Thank you.